Hashem's v'saitiv ta'ach l'piagid z'lasacha. We're now in the 16th Perek of Melachim Beis, and here we have a new midah. Actually, Achaz, the evil king, who was the first of many kings in a while of Melech Yehuda that was not good. He rules over the Yerushalayim and Yehuda starting when he's 20 years old for 16 years. Now, it's interesting, as we're going to learn, that he really was bad. V'lo asa hayashar b'nei Hashem, that he doesn't do great in the eyes of Hashem, is really lowballing it. But then it adds, David Aviv, like his ancestor David. What in the world? Well, obviously, that's a no-brainer. If he's not a very good king, and he's an evil guy, and we'll hear all of the horrible things that he does, why would it say David Aviv? So here lies, perhaps, another midah lesson for us. What he thought to himself was, I don't have to be great. I just have to be mediocre. I'm not going to be like my, ancestor David. I'll just be, regular, run-of-the-mill. It's not going to be such a big deal for me if I don't reach my highest potential. And for that reason, he sunk lower, lower, and lower. That level of perhaps laziness, perhaps just not striving and being motivated to do the best that he can, was an area of significant weakness. Now, what did he do wrong? Unfortunately, let's hear about what that was. So the first thing is he went according to the other Malchei Yisrael. Now, he's Malchei Yehuda, and the Malchei Yisrael are definitely going down. But what did he do? He did Molech. Molech was a level of Avodah Zarah where they sacrificed their children. They either actually sacrificed to fire, or they sacrificed their children where they would pass them through an area that wasn't on fire. And that was their way of perhaps allowing that the gods, the other powers, to be able to be helpful in whatever it is that they were choosing to do. Now, we can't fully judge what was happening during the time of Avodah Zarah, because we remember Ezra took away our taiva, our desire for Avodah Zarah, that we would have succumbed many-fold to Avodah Zarah had we had it. But essentially what he's saying, if we were to think about it in theoretical terms, is that there was this level of sacrifice of one's family for the sake of gaining something, getting ahead. And that is definitely something to consider. One of his we don't know how many sons he had, but we do know that Achaz had a son, Chizkiyahu, who's going to ultimately take over for him. And so Chizkiyahu was saved. And so perhaps that was a miracle. The Mefarshim talk about that Chizkiyahu's mother put all of these bugs that were fireproof bugs around him when he was in the process of Molech. But essentially, he put bamos everywhere. He put Avodah Zarah everywhere. He made it that Avodah Zarah was a rampant thing. Now, at the same time, we have Ritzin, who's Melech Aram, and Pekach ben Ramalyahu, who's the king of Israel. They join forces, and they are sieging Achaz, and he couldn't overcome them, so he's in trouble. Now, what was really happening is that perhaps they were trying to form an alliance, something that was going to be everyone together against the superpower, which is Ashur. And we know Achaz, if his midah is, he's not going to take it to the gold. So he that's just not going to work for me. I think that either it'd be too much effort, or I don't see this as being something that's going to be, what do I need this for? Or he just didn't feel the security of siding with people of this nature. But essentially, at that time, King Ritzin is the superpower, and he is literally taking over and over. Vayinashel es haYehudim me'elos. Here is very interesting. Rabbi Rasser mentions the first time that Yehudim is mentioned in all of Tanakh. We're called Yehudim. Why is that? So perhaps one idea is that the king of Israel and the Yisrael nation, we're going into Galus shortly. And so we have to have some sort of identity. And so we're going to be called Yehudim, we're the Malchus Yehuda. as a remnant of what will ultimately be Klal Yisrael. So anyway, Achaz, he sends a convoy to Tiglath-Pileser, the king of Ashur, and he says, I want to pledge my allegiance to you. Help me from Aram, from attacking me. And he gives gold and silver that were part of the Beis Hamikdash and all of the treasuries, and he gives it to a gift to Ashur. And Ashur responds, he takes it, and he puts Ritzin to death, and he helps out to a degree. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, this is not something that is positive. Essentially, as we will learn later when it comes in Divrei Hayamim, Achaz was offered to, Hashem came through Yeshayahu. First of all, he runs away from Yeshayahu because he is so, he is very embarrassed for what he's done. But essentially, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks Achav, this is, Achaz, you have a chance here. Why don't you, choose anything, any sign, and I will show you that you should not be with Ashur, but that I will help you. And essentially, he doesn't do that. And in exchange, Hashem forces a sign on him to try to teach him that no, you can believe in me. Don't do the molech. Don't do any of that. Follow in my ways. Do what Hashem. That will be the ultimate source of support for you. But Achaz doesn't do that. And essentially, when King Achaz goes to Damascus, he sees that the king Tiglath-Pileser has this amazing Mizbeach, and he copies it. He asks Uriah to sketch the Mizbeach to make it, in his own kingship, and Uriah does that. And essentially, he brings this Mizbeach back. So he replaces the Mizbeach Nechoshes with this new Mizbeach. And then he goes on and he does even worse. He takes away so many of the interesting parts. He takes away the water, the yam. He takes away the area where they all of these water vessels that were used. And why does he do that? Because they had the etchings of the Kruvim. They had remnants of Hashem's power, and he basically just wants to get rid of all of them. So he's getting away from the karbanos. He's taking away the kiyor, the yam, and all of these, anything that has the bronze ox in that there were 12 of them to highlight the different chariot of Hashem. He gets rid of that. Anything that he can that will say to Hashem, I don't want you in my life. You're not going to support me. Get away from me and stay out. We can do this ourselves. We don't need you. And that level of lacking emunah in Hashem is really, he was Achaz. He grabbed the Bnei Israel out of the capability to be good people. That's what his job, that's what he did, and he is terrible. All of his stories we will go into greater detail in Divrei Hayamim, but essentially he is buried in Ir David, and Chizkiyahu, his son, the son who survived the Molech, is able to take over and be the king. And so something good ultimately does happen. But we see here that he was so committed. He believed that he could do it himself, or that he could do it his way, and he was unable to deviate. And Hashem, in his infinite mercy, tries to help him. He is somewhat successful so that he can see the light and see that it's not in his hands, but it's rather in the hands of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. But he just takes away every opportunity to have Hashem in his life, and as a result, Hashem in all of our lives, of the Bnei Israel's lives. He makes it impossible he changes the entrance for the royal palace. He makes it that the people that used to receive shade, the guards that used to receive shade, he takes away their shade because they would wait there until after Shabbos. So he takes that away too. He makes sure that life, the way that that Yehuda knows it, is no longer focused on Hashem, but focused on Kochi ve'otzem yadi and on Avodah Zarah. And for that, it stems from that lack of confidence or that lack of belief that he could be somebody special, that he could do what he had to do. And he brought the people down with him. It seems as though he was doing everything lahachas, just because I want to show that I can do different and that I don't believe in your mahalach and your way. But ultimately, he was embarrassed by his behavior because he ran away from Yeshayahu. That we'll understand that story later on. And finally, the idea really is that there must have been something that was still good, even though he's one of the 4 kings that don't get Olam Haba. But Chizkiyahu, something did good happened, and we will see Chizkiyahu rise to power in a very special way.